All right, Larry, thanks very much. Darkness has fallen over Las Vegas. This has been much anticipated. As you may know, it was originally scheduled for May. It was postponed. And now we are approximately 10 to 15 minutes away from the time when Oscar De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas will make the walk and enter the ring. They're expected to touch gloves about 11:15 Eastern Time. This was the press conference back in January, nose to nose. Then Vargas will push De La Hoya. In the ensuing scuffle, a top-ranked publicist actually sustained a broken leg. Neither fighter was hurt. The injury to the left wrist of De La Hoya forced the postponement from early May to this week. Then a few days ago, another press conference. Huge dais, and they took precautions. You'll see that De La Hoya and Vargas are seated far from each other with a plexiglass barrier between the two of them, just in case. There were also security guards on hand. De La Hoya seated next to the promoter, Bob Arum, the security force. And then pan down, there is Vargas. And the weigh-in occurred yesterday. Each tipped the scales at 154 pounds. Vargas, as you'll see in a minute, really ripped, very proud of that physique. He's worked himself into great shape. He says there is no way that De La Hoya is in the kind of shape I'm in, no way that he is as hungry as I am. Well, we'll find out when the talking stops and the punching begins in just a few minutes for supremacy at 154 pounds, De La Hoya and Vargas. Moments ago, this was taped just a short while ago, Fran Charles talked with Fernando Vargas. Here it is.
All right, thanks, Bob. Inside the locker room with Fernando Vargas as he's getting his hands wrapped. Fernando, Oscar's been off for 15 months, but you haven't fought in a year yourself. It's the longest layoff of your career. How will early moments of the fight proceed?
I'm ready. There's no way that he can be more ready than I am. Honestly, I killed myself in the gym, and you know, Mexicans ain't supposed to look like this. So, you know, I worked hard, and I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm ready to put my life on the line for this, and I just feel that, you know, this is my time, God willing.
It's no secret that you want to engage with him and get him to trade. You want to make it a physical fight. How do you get that fight?
Well, I mean, Mexicans want to see a fight, you know. He says he's Mexican, so let's fight, you know. I'm in the best shape of my life, and you know, I'm ready to take it to the limit. I'm ready.
In your only loss to Felix Trinidad, you yourself acknowledged you should have boxed him, but emotions got the best of you. You stood and traded with him, and that probably cost you the fight. Emotions have been very high for this bout with De La Hoya. How are you going to make sure that you keep him in check and stay focused?
I already kept him on check. I always learn from my mistakes. I never trip over the same rock twice. I've been a fighter that have been able to learn from my mistakes, and you guys are going to see that today. You know, I'm just ready. You just don't know how ready I am, and God willing, this is my fight.
You're very proud of the work that you've done to get ready. Your body's ripped. But how is that going to help you once you get inside the ring?
Well, the condition speaks for itself. You know, I worked hard, and you're going to see that in the later rounds, and if it goes later rounds, I'm gonna be as strong as I was in the beginnings of the rounds. It's just I'm in the best shape of my life, and I feel that, you know, this fight is gonna propel me to another level. I think I need fights like this to take me to a next level, and that's what this fight is.
Finally, Fernando, you've waited for this opportunity your entire career. We're moments away from you stepping in the ring with Oscar De La Hoya. What are you feeling right now?
I feel great. I feel ready. I don't know. You know, I just feel like I've never felt like this before. The way I feel right now, I feel so relaxed. I feel good. I feel strong, and I feel it's showtime. I want to step in there and do this. It's been a long time coming, and he can't be more hungry than me. And
the best of luck to ferocious Fernando Vargas. Thanks for your time. Let's send it back to Bob.
Okay, Fran, thanks, along with Hall of Fame manager and trainer Emmanuel Stewart. Now, this fight will take place using 10-ounce gloves. They could have, by mutual agreement, they could have used 8-ounce gloves. De La Hoya's camp wanted the 10-ouncers. Vargas would have been happy to go with 8. Explain the difference and your take on it.
Well, I think the difference in weight is significant, especially when you're dealing in the top line of any particular sport. And in boxing here, as you can see, the one on my right is the 8-ounce. The one on the left is a 10-ounce. Not only is there increased punching power in 8 ounces, but it's a better defense because it's a bigger glove and it protects you a lot. Considering the fact that before 1962, all championship fights used to be in 6-ounce gloves, including heavyweight championship fights. I think possibly the fact that Oscar wanted the larger gloves may be reflective of the fact that he still may be concerned about his hand injuries and possibly about the fact that maybe Vargas may be a bigger puncher.
You know, Vargas said there's no question that De La Hoya was concerned about blunting the supposedly superior punching power of Vargas. On the other hand, Vargas had this take. He said if De La Hoya is supposed to have the greater hand speed, maybe the extra couple of ounces will reduce that hand speed. Either way, says Vargas, I don't care, just let me at him. Now, we also attempted to talk with Oscar De La Hoya, who is normally extremely cooperative. He declined our interview request. However, our microphones were there when the referee for the main event tonight, Joe Cortez, gave his instructions to the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya.
Hey, Oscar, how you doing tonight?
Good.
Like, I'll be your referee for this fight tonight. You've been around a while already. How many fights you have now?
34.
34. So you basically know the rules, right? I'm here to enforce them. Okay, when I say break, I want you to break clean. There's a knockdown, neutral corner. You say that, I'll tell you to come out. There's no 3 knockdown rules up to my discretion. I want you to watch the low punches, kitty punches, rabbit punches. And I know there's been a lot of hype about this fight. We're going to go ahead with a clean slate. 1 point deduction in this fight can mean the difference of winning a title. I don't want to take any points from anybody. I want good sportsmanlike conduct. I obey my commands at all times. The mouthpiece comes out, replace the mouthpiece. No water, no Vaseline, no instructions. Okay? Excellent to headbutt. 4 completed rounds, we go to the scorecard. Prior to that, it'll be a technical draw. Okay? Want a good, clean fight? Don't hit your opponent when he's on the canvas. If you hit him when he's on the canvas, it's going to cost you points. If you cannot continue, you may be disqualified. Be careful with that. I don't want any retaliation. If he does something to you, let me take matters into my hand. I'll handle that, okay? Because if you retaliate, it may cost you points. Okay? Any questions, sir?
That sounds good.
Okay, good luck to you. God bless.
All right, just moments away now. Bad blood, that's the way it's been billed. That's what the tickets say. That's what this particular handout listing the undercard says. Bad blood, T-shirts being sold in the hotel lobby bearing the fighters' faces and the inscription bad blood. Well, some of the harshest feuds seem to start from trivial circumstances. The best we can gather is that Vargas, who had idolized De La Hoya, felt that Oscar gave him short shrift when they first met years ago. Then one day, the young Fernando Vargas was doing his daily road work in Big Bear, California, and slipped into a snowbank. Big man on campus Oscar De La Hoya was also out running, happened upon the scene, and according to Vargas's account, found Fernando's pratfall humorous and laughed at him, deeply wounding the youngster who from that point viewed his one-time idol with contempt. For his part, De La Hoya says he has no recollection of the incident. Clearly, his feelings about all this are less intense than Vargas's, although De La Hoya has said he thinks that Vargas, like Mike Tyson, represents a thuggish element in boxing that gives the sport a bad name. Yesterday, I asked De La Hoya whether he thinks Vargas truly hates him. The Golden Boy said that Vargas's public comments might well be just for effect, designed to get under Oscar's skin and to hype the fight. But an hour later, when I put the same question to Vargas, he minced no words, said, Fernando, the animosity is very real, and after I beat him, I'll remind him of why I feel the way I do. Whatever it is between these two, they've been pointing towards this moment for years. Tonight, 2 bitter rivals square off in one of the most highly anticipated matchups in years. The boxing world has waited almost a decade for Oscar De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas to put their public animosity aside and settle their differences inside the ring. Their genuine distaste for each other was evident as soon as the fight was announced. The planned May 4th date was pushed back when De La Hoya injured his left wrist during sparring. But the postponement didn't calm the hyped-up combatants.
Put everything that's necessary inside myself to get myself prepared physically, mentally, and spiritually to beat him, to knock him out.
He's uncontrollable. He's so angry inside that, I want to make sure that inside that ring he goes in like a madman.
De La Hoya and Vargas took different paths getting here, but neither career would be complete without tonight's fight. Oscar De La Hoya,
when we do fight, it's going to be history.
And so the wait is over. Moments from now, Oscar De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas will enter the ring, and their rivalry will move from a war of words to the battle that will truly decide the issue. De La Hoya Vargas, next. Oscar De La Hoya or Fernando Vargas. Outside of Lewis Tyson, this is the most anticipated fight of the year, and it figures to be a lot more competitive than Lewis Tyson was. Moments from now, Oscar De La Hoya and Fernando Vargas. A pair of Mexican-Americans, both Southern Californians, both former Olympians, both champions at 154 pounds, both professing dislike for the other, will finally meet in the ring. Among those on hand, Evander Holyfield, who continues to campaign at age 39. Sugar Ray Leonard, it took a whole long time for him to get it out of his system. Now just a spectator. John Ruiz, who holds a heavyweight belt and is rumored to be thinking about a fight with Roy Jones Jr., who would move up in weight to do it, move up by quite a bit. The Hitman, Tommy Hearns. And the man generally regarded as the world's best featherweight, Marco Antonio Barrera, in the crowd tonight. Emmanuel Stewart is here. Well, we got to look at one of your old charges from the Kronk Gym in Detroit. Thomas Hitman Hearns, when he moved up in weight, he retained a whole lot of wallop. There's a question about whether Oscar De La Hoya does the same.
That's a serious question that the whole boxing game is right now considering. Tommy went through 6-weight division. He went from a welterweight, junior middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, and cruiserweight, and still was a knockout puncher. I think Oscar's biggest problem is the fact the way that he's training, he's not punching all the way through with his punches now, focusing more on defensive tactics and speed for the most part. And then you got to look at Oscar's really a small-boned person, too. I think he only wears about an 8.5 shoe as compared to Fernando Vargas and the other guys. So by nature, he's not really a heavy-boned man anyway.
We discussed this earlier in our pay-per-view telecast, but many viewers are probably just joining us as we move closer to the main event. So I'll pose the question to you again. 3 fights ago, Fernando Vargas displayed great courage, but lost convincingly, a TKO in the 12th to Felix Trinidad, and he went down 5 times in the process. So though Vargas is only 24, young and strong, there are a number of people who think that that fight took something out of him.
Personally, I don't think it's just a guess. We'll find out tonight. Everyone is different. You look at Joe Louis, he took a terrific long beating when he fought Max Mellon the first time and was knocked out in the 11th round. Didn't suffer anything from it. And even Roberto Duran, one of the most brutal knockouts probably in boxing history, Thomas Hearns, never was knocked out since then. He went on to beat Iran Barkley and a lot of other guys. Everybody's body is different. And I personally feel that Fernando, being a young guy, has recuperated from that, and I think it's not going to have a lingering effect, but we will find out later on tonight.
We know what Oscar De La Hoya says that his motivation is. Huge purse for him tonight, $14 million guaranteed, could well approach $20 million, but he's a millionaire already 100 times over. It's about his place in history. He'd like to win this one, then set the stage for a rematch with Sugar Shane Mosley. He's hoping that Felix Trinidad will consider coming out of retirement. Trinidad steadfastly says he won't, but perhaps a huge money fight with De La Hoya would be the lure. And then there's even talk about De La Hoya against Bernard Hopkins. Now, all that is fine in theory, but there are some who say at age 29, with all he's accomplished, he can't possibly have the same motivation here as Fernando Vargas will bring into this ring.
That's a fact. You know, Oscar De La Hoya started boxing at the age of 5, had an unbelievable amateur career, went on to win the Olympics, won every kind of international title, started fighting super fights, almost his first fight as a professional fighter. And when you look at the fact that he's 29 years old, it's amazing that he's still having any type of an excitement about boxing, particularly with the money that he's made all along the way.
You know, he actually told me and others over the past few months that, hey, after all, face it, it's dangerous, it's tiring. I don't like getting up early in the morning to do the road work. But I'll say this, when I spoke with him in the spring, he was much more tentative than in the days leading up to this fight. Some sort of change in his mindset happened this spring and into the summer. If you had spoken to him in March or April, you wouldn't have thought that his heart was in it at all. It's certainly changed since then. The question is how much.
Well, you know, he's married now. He seems to be very happily married and spends a lot of time with his wife. I think he has a beautiful home he bought in Puerto Rico, I understand. And they're both singers, and I'm one of the few guys who really like Oscar singing. And I think it's only normal when a guy's had so much success so soon for him to want to delve into other things. But for this fight, I think he's going to come up to the level that's necessary for him to perform good.
His wife, Millie, who is a pop star in Puerto Rico, was with him throughout the latter stages of training camp. Now, as an old trainer, how do you view that?
Personally, I don't believe in that. I think a fighter needs to get into a Spartan-type animalistic state of mind preparing for a big fight. But everyone works different. Historically, it's been proven that for the most part, fighters should not have their wives or girlfriends around.
Lastly, Floyd Mayweather Sr. is the trainer now for Oscar De La Hoya. He's gone through a succession of trainers. You were somewhere on that list. Mayweather Sr., self-proclaimed world's greatest trainer. The man is not shy. He says he has turned De La Hoya from a guy too reliant on the left into a two-handed fighter. Your view?
Well, he's only been with Oscar in 2 fights, and those 2 fights have not impressed the public for the most part. He beat, I think, Arturo Gatti, who he was much physically stronger than, and had a rough fight in that, and then he went to full limit with another fighter who was not that talented. So that still remains to be seen. But the one thing I must say, Oscar is a very talented fighter anyway, regardless of me or whoever's worked with him. And he's been so responsible for the big resurgence and interest in boxing the last 8 years because he's fought everybody out there. He's fought from Quartet and Pernell Whitaker, Shane Mosley, Trinidad, even tonight. So I give him a lot of credit for this big crowd we have here and the interest in boxing. Probably more so than any one fighter in the last 8 years.
Well, no question about that. He is the biggest pay-per-view draw outside of the heavyweight division. By far the biggest non-heavyweight pay-per-view draw in history. Now, we've just gotten an update. The fighters are expected to walk into the ring in about 6 minutes from now. Let's take a look at our AOL online poll results. It was 75% in favor of De La Hoya earlier. Now it is closed up. 55% of those voting online believe that De La Hoya will win. 45% back Vargas. The line in Vegas was 12-5 for De La Hoya, 12-5. In a poll of 21 sports writers taken by the Las Vegas Review-Journal, 20 of the 21 picked De La Hoya, but you believe it's going to be a closer fight than those results would indicate.
I think the people that voted online are smarter than these supposed boxing writers here. When you look at all of the guys that voted, particularly you throw out Michael Katz's vote, which doesn't count when it comes to Oscar. I mean, everyone picked Oscar to win among the sports writers. I think 65 and 45 and those type figures are more realistic.
What's your pick?
It's 2 picks. When you look at logic and you look at all of the technical things, it's Oscar. Then you look at emotions and other factors and the fact that they're underestimating, I think, Vargas' ring generalship. I see Vargas. The general feeling among most of the people here, I'm beginning to find that's moving towards Vargas. So I'm really kind of up in there. My little gut feeling keeps saying Vargas, which doesn't make sense when I know that Oscar's a better fighter.
So that becomes the pick then. Vargas becomes your pick. I got to hold you to something.
Okay, if you want to.
All right. Okay, let's look in on Fernando Vargas. This would be the scene in his dressing room. This is live. Now about 4 minutes from the time when they will be summoned toward the ring. And that brings us to the time when we turn it over to the fellows who will call the action. They are, of course, George Foreman, Larry Merchant, and Jim Lampley. So let's go downstairs ringside. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Bob Costas. Incidentally, one note on the little delay that we have experienced here. Fernando Vargas had originally agreed that if everybody else was ready to go at 8 o'clock, he'd walk to the ring at 8 o'clock. He's managed by Shelly Finkel, same man who managed Mike Tyson, who pulled this in Memphis, where at the last minute he decided that he would wait an extra 15 minutes to walk to the ring. I guess it worked so well for Tyson, they decided to do the same thing for Vargas, and Vargas flatly stated a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but 10 minutes ago, that he wouldn't walk out until 8:15, regardless of what he had said prior to the fight. This is in keeping with the pattern where Fernando Vargas, in the days leading up to this fight, canceled a variety of media appearances, Larry Merchant, claiming that the number of interviews he did before the Trinidad fight affected his focus and hurt him in the fight. Are they dreaming?
Well, it's an inconvenience, and everybody forgets it as soon as the bell rings. We know that.
All right, well, let's go to our final comments now prior to the walk-ins as we had planned. Larry, so much emotion, 5 years of build-up, bad blood, as Bob pointed out. With all of this hanging over the fight, will it necessarily affect the competition, and if so, how? Will it produce recklessness or perhaps more caution than might be expected?
Probably some of both, but before I could give you a definitive answer, Jim, I've got to decide whether this is a fight or a grand opera. For years, these two fighters have been behaving like tenors barking at each other across a stage. You're a phony. You're a thug. I die to win. I'll retire if I lose. I'll swallow the worm with my tequila. I have more hot chilies in my blood. I hate you. I hate you. The only relevant comment may have come from Oscar De La Hoya when he said that Vargas seemed to him like a celebrity stalker. Tonight, Vargas will be a celebrity stalker in the ring. And I believe, Jim, that the fight will be told on how well one fighter stalks and the other fighter deals with it.
Interesting. You eliminated the little observation about sword play, huh? All right, well, I'll say it. Eventually we get to the sword play. Okay, so much for all those preliminaries, as Larry pointed out. Now we get to the main business, and it's younger, stronger, hungrier, but with a suspect chin. That's Vargas against slicker, quicker, richer, but with suspect punching power. That's De La Hoya. Turning to two-time world heavyweight champion and HBO expert boxing commentator George Foreman. George, what'll determine who's going to win this fight?
It's about desire this time. All of the guys, Oscar De La Hoya is a great boxer, combination puncher. Vargas, he has all of the other necessities. But one thing is going to make a difference tonight is passion. Who's willing to get bloody, swollen, and keep answering the bell round after round? I'm telling you, Vargas seems to be the more hunger for that. He's not pretty. He's not even trying to look pretty. De La Hoya, he's got it all made.
All the writers picked De La Hoya. Sounds to me like Emmanuel Stewart and George Foreman both just picked Fernando Vargas. So here comes the tale of the tape for Oscar De La Hoya against Fernando Vargas in one of the most hotly anticipated fights in our sport in recent years. De La Hoya still on the light side of 30, but getting close. Vargas, so much, so soon, so much already under his belt, and still only 24. A half-inch height advantage for De La Hoya. A 1-inch reach advantage for Vargas. They both weighed in at 154 pounds. CompuBox numbers, Larry.
Now look at how they fought against common opponents. You could see the numbers are very similar, as almost identical, in fact, in the average punches per round and punches landed.
Rules to the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Oscar De La Hoya Fernando Vargas fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
As the result of a negotiation, Fernando Vargas will be entering the ring first and will be introduced last. Why the negotiation? Because, of course, both fighters hold title belts at 154 pounds. And here comes Fernando Vargas. 356 days out of the...
Все были возмущены, что Оскар, используя свою молодость, скорость и высокий рост, вот так расправился с иконой мексиканского бокса. Поэтому Оскару пришлось в следующий раз просто упереться ногами в пол и завязать с Чавесом рубку. Все прекрасно понимали, что стареющий Чавес, в общем, старый Чавес, не мог этого выдержать и не выдержал. Рука Чавеса на плече Варгаса о многом говорит. Фернандо Варгас, чемпион мира по версии WBA. На нем цвета мексиканского флага. Пришло время доказывать свою правоту в ринге, подтверждать свои угрозы, свои оскорбления, свои нападки. Он поклялся умереть в ринге, но не проиграть. И все это восприняли всерьез. Что бы там ни говорили, Варгас один из самых ярких, один из самых талантливых, самых жестоких и опасных бойцов современного бокса. Такая мощная стена секьюрити. Говорил я вам, что это мексиканское предприятие, мексиканский матч. Мексиканская страсть, которая может выплеснуться самым неожиданным образом. Оскар де ла Хоя. Сколько раз он уже выходил вот таким сосредоточенным, немножко озабоченным. И сегодня он выходит совершенно под другую музыку. Никогда еще у Оскара де ла Хоя за всю его блестящую карьеру не было противника, который так бы его ненавидел, так страстно не мечтал расправиться с ним, уничтожить его. Да. все жду, когда же загремит мексиканская музыка, и вот она.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino here in Las Vegas, Nevada, Top Rank Incorporated and Main Events are proud to present the featured bout of the evening, 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC, WBA Super Welterweight Junior Middleweight Championship of the World.
Да. Я говорил, что это самые большие звезды, самые великие бойцы в этой весовой категории в современном боксе. Но официально это столкновение двух чемпионов по разным версиям. Оскар де ла Хоя, чемпион мира по версии WBC, Варгас по версии WBA. В углу у Оскара новый тренер Мейвезер. Ну и непременный Джо Кортес как рефери.
And now for the sold-out thousands in attendance here at the Mandalay Bay of Las Vegas and the millions watching around the world. This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Вот наступает момент, которого мы так долго ждали.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue and red, and
Представление
154 pounds.
Оскара де ла Хоя. 34 победы, 2 поражения, 27 побед нокаутом. Оскар де ла Хоя. 6 мировых титулов, 6 поясов у Оскара де ла Хоя.
Defending WBC Super Welterweight Champion of the World, the Golden Boy, Oscar de la Hoya. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white. And his official weight is also 154 pounds.
22 победы, 1 поражение, 20 нокаутов. Фернандо Варгас.
And 20 of his 22 victories are by knockout. And he has captured 2 world titles. From La Colonia Boxing, Oxnard, California, the 2-time world champion, the reigning, defending WBA
И 2 пояса у Фернандо Варгаса.
Champion of the world, the Aztec warrior, El Feroz,
Ацтекский воин
Fernando
Эль Ферос, яростный Фернандо Варгас.
All right, gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I expect a good, clean fight. I want good sportsmanlike conduct. Oscar, your cup is the trunks a little high here. The punches here are still good. Your trunks are okay here. Remember, guys, I want a clean fight. Obey my commands at all time. And remember, guys,
который раз повторяет инструкции, которые бойцы выучили уже наизусть. Все ждут прессинга со стороны Варгаса. Ведь после того, что было сказано, все ожидают яростного боя. Кость в кость, что называется. Все ждали, что Хоя займет выжидательную позицию в начале, в первых раундах этого боя. Но начал он очень резво. Варгас заряжен на удар, он выцеливает. Ему важно не просто выиграть. Ему важно, как я уже говорил, уничтожить Хоя, разбить его, нокаутировать, смести с лица земли. Варгас сказал, что он понял причины своего проигрыша Тринидад. Что он не будет себя вести как уличный драчун. Что он знает, с кем ему предстоит встретиться. И ничто Оскару не поможет. Ни его техника, ни его скорость. Хоя обладает очень резким, точным, прицельным ударом слева. О, странная вещь происходит. Варгас затолкал Хоя под канаты. Джо Кортес флегматично наблюдал. Бурный спорт Варгаса. Я думаю, что и Хоя, и его тренер Мейвезер, они, в общем, ожидали такого начала. Здесь для Оскара важно не пропустить в начале боя. Вот этот раунд, согласитесь, потрясающий темп и острота. И уже травма у Оскара. Да. Взбешенный Мейвезер, тренер Оскара Хоя, говорит: что ты творишь? Твоя задача джеб, джеб и движение. Только движение. Почему ты стоишь под этим огнем? Оскар выбирает момент для атаки и для атаки в туловище. Он чувствует, что Варгас наращивает темп по первому раунду, судя к концу каждого раунда. К концу, когда противник уже немножко подустанет. Оскару нужно боксировать. Он это здорово умеет делать. Это движение, это контроль противника с дистанции, это умение уворачиваться от неприятностей и умение наказать в нужный момент. Варгас хороший боксер, у него колоссальный опыт. Но он как бы попроще, потому что его намерения ясны. Варгас бьет с обеих рук, бьет как из пушки. Конечно, Хоя не такой панчер, как Варгас. Тот и физически намного мощнее. Но Варгас опасен в тот момент, когда противник, в общем, на мгновение расслабляется, теряет контроль над ситуацией. Вот тут Варгас в полной мере может все это использовать. Многие считали Оскара де ла Хойя одноруким боксером, потому что, в принципе, почти все свои победы нокаутом он одерживал вот этим левым крюком, который раньше, в общем, все, что делал Оскар, это было стремление вывести себя в положение замаха под этот самый, на этот, вернее, левый крюк в голову или в туловище. Да. И судя по тому, как Варгас себя ведет вот в этих эпизодах, он, конечно, уже перестает себя контролировать. Слишком много страсти.
Get right back to your jab. Your defense is working good. Keep your head moving. Keep your rhythm going, okay? Keep your rhythm going. Up and down, down and up. Double jab. Hook off the jab. Jab, hook, jab. Keep doing different things. You don't want to do the same thing. Keep them confused. Start using the ring some. Make them look for you.
Мейвезер говорит, делай разные вещи, не повторяйся. Он тебя ловит на том, что ты повторяешься. В углу Варгаса один стоит крик, хор. Изкьерда, изкьерда. Левой, левой, больше надо левой действовать. Слишком откровенно атакует справа Варгас. Видна эта атака. Смещается де ла Хойя. Смещается при атаке Варгаса. Как раз в ту сторону, куда Варгас не ожидает. Но стоит только пойти по прямой назад, Варгас может догнать. Посмотрим. Третий раунд идет из 12 запланированных. Если правы предсказатели, де ла Хойя, в общем, отдаст эти 3-4 раунда, позволит прессинговать. Конечно, задача Оскара заставить противника промахиваться как можно чаще, как можно больше. Ведь Варгас вкладывается в каждый свой удар. И теряет силы в промахах. Для Варгаса самое главное — попасть по цели. Неважно, чисто или нет. Главное поставить кулак плотно. Тогда он чувствует себя королем, что называется. И вот Оскар позволяет себя запереть. Да, Варгас выглядит в этом бою, конечно, очень убедительно. Гораздо более грозным выглядит, чем в бою против Феликса Тринидада.
Breathe in slow, breathe in slow. Breathe in slow. I said, come on now, listen to me. Breathe in slow. And let out slow. How you feel?
Жесткий удар пропустил сейчас Хоя. Высоковато, хорошо пришлось.
High level, either one. Which one come first? And break with the hook right in what he said.
Walk around, guys.
Okay? Break with it.
Публика стоит. Редко так бывает, чтобы люди вскакивали со своих мест. Да. Скорости Хоя превосходит своего противника, конечно. Скорости ударов. Может, они не такие жесткие, не такие тяжеленные, как у Варгаса, но очень острые и очень прицельно он может действовать. Четвертый раунд идет. Оскару надо действовать, конечно, поострей. Он прекрасно это понимает. Но время еще есть, и Варгас еще не устал. Чтобы он устал, нужно две вещи. Нужен темп, и нужно заставить его промахиваться. Молодец. Да, вот это в стиле лучших времен Оскара де ла Хоя. Как обманул. Дважды на одном и том же попался Варгас. Вот здесь начинает проявляться превосходство скорости Оскара де ла Хоя. Оскар, его намерение понятно. Он пытается как раз в тот момент, когда Варгас уже готов к атаке, именно в этот момент он пытается опередить его, и зачастую это получается. 100% раунд за Оскаром де ла Хоя.
we dealing with the man that's fatigued now?
Yeah, I gotta start taking him back.
You gotta start pressing him a little bit. Go to him.
Немножко не тот эпизод. Контратака комбинации, которая левым ударом заканчивалась, очень удалась Де Хойя. Малыш, выглядишь неплохо, говорит Мейвезер. Пятый раунд. До чего же время быстро летит в таких боях? Просто поразительно. Вот это умение нависать над противником, умение его держать в напряжении всегда было свойственно Оскару Де Хойе. Мы давно его не видели на ринге. Вот такого раньше он себе не позволял, пропускать такие удары. И с Варгасом нельзя размениваться. Только такие атаки, только внезапные вещи. Внезапные комбинации, работа в опережении может здесь помочь Де Хойе. За Оскаром раньше замечался этот грешок. Способность заигрываться. Причем на грани риска. Вот эта вот игра, причем она совершенно не свойственна в таком стиле, как это свойственно Рою Джонсу. Нет. Джонс ведь умеет подурачиться. Оскар Де Хойя нет. Это просто такая типичная мексиканская бравада. Но это было понятно, когда Оскару было там 20 лет. Сейчас это весьма зрелый боец. О нем уже много разных слухов было о том, что он бокс оставляет, что у него есть предложение из Голливуда, что он хочет там попробовать карьеру певца и так далее. Поэтому многие как мистически отнеслись к его решению продолжать, что ли, карьеру. Необъяснимая вещь происходит с Оскаром вот в этих эпизодах. Мне совершенно непонятно, почему он так себя ведет. Раунд проиграл. Твой бой, говорят Варгасу. Да, если Оскар будет себя так вести, правы окажутся секунданты Варгаса.
Take some of the starch out of it, okay? No, don't blow your nose. Watch that face. Don't blow your nose. Don't blow it, don't blow it. All right, Chief, let's go. All right, seconds out. Seconds out.
Шестой раунд. Ничего еще не решено. Да. Варгас верен себе. Он меньше суетится. Он, кажется, немножко остыл. И он понимает, что в перестрелке с дистанции с Оскаром состязаться нельзя. Нужно застать его врасплох или запереть, что тоже означает застать врасплох. Загнать просто в канаты Де Ла Хойя, когда тот не хочет этого делать, в общем, практически никому не удавалось. Но вот когда Варгас ловит его где-то на последней трети вот расстояние от центра до каната, вот тут уже вывернуться Де Ла Хойя очень сложно. Де Ла Хойя не ставит себе задачу, и никогда не ставит, кстати говоря, нокаутировать противника, как это делает Варгас. Он может это сделать, если чисто попадет. Но его задача обыграть. Причем обыграть не просто так, обыграть жестко. Побить. Шестой раунд кончается. Ну, не намеренно это было, это ясно. Не намеренно. Совпал удар Оскара с гонгом. Хотел извиниться Оскар, но извинения не приняты. Да, одно предсказание уже не сбылось. Айван Голдман. Это будет гораздо более легкий бой для Оскара Де Ла Хойя, чем многие ожидают, заявил этот аналитик. Не получается. Да, и все-таки надо признать, что Варгас очень хорошо готов к этому бою. Он многому научился. Все действительно ожидали, что он надломлен поражением от Феликса Тринидада. Но в этом бою гораздо более хладнокровен, более расчетлив. И таких внезапных атак, как вот сейчас, от него мало кто ждал. Я думаю, Мейвезер будет очень недоволен. Слишком длинной паузы делает Оскар. А между прочим, 7-й раунд кончается. О, наконец-то. То, чего не ожидали от Оскара. Этих атак справа. Раньше он этим не славился. Чем чаще что-то предпринимает Оскар де ла Хойя, тем лучше для него. Последние секунды 7-го раунда. Полное превосходство в этом раунде Оскара де ла Хойя. Полное превосходство. Совершенно неожиданно. Как себя чувствуешь? Хорошо.
You run them combinations 3 or 4 times from the body to the head. Give me 2 good combinations.
Высоко попал сейчас Оскар. Чуть бы пониже. Были бы неприятности. Восьмой раунд. Не так уж много времени остается. Шансы Варгаса. Это точный удар. Пока что он пропускает. Вот в этих эпизодах сказывается превосходство в технике Оскара де ла Хойя. Он всегда был великолепный техник. Он всегда действовал остро, очень быстро. И, в общем, очень сложно его было сбить с куража, что называется. Причем, если уж он ухватился за удачу, то вырвать ее из рук у него очень сложно было. Вспомните его бой с базукой Квартеем. Да, множество боев с его участием. Хозяин, полный хозяин де ла Хойя на ринге сейчас. На выбор бьет. Кто же ожидал, интересно, такого поворота событий? Варгас потерялся, просто потерялся. Удивительно. При его-то настрое. Сейчас для него будет самое унизительное, это вот такая издевательская совершенно свобода противника. Вот этот вот расстрел, что называется, на выбор с дистанции. Это мало того, что это больно, неприятно, что это проигрыш, это унижение. И совершенно невыносимое для Варгаса. Причем Де Ла Хойя еще ко всему прочему дозирует силу своих ударов. Да, великий мастер, этот золотой мальчик, ничего не скажешь.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor.
Ponga sus manos arriba.
Tú sabes que es todo para ti. Hay que hacerlo,
Fernando,
¿ok?
esta es la suya.
Hay que hacerlo, es
Pero
todo para ti.
póngale ritmo,
Toda la vida
ritmo,
le hemos
ritmo.
querido esta pelea.
Ponga su izquierda, su
¿Ok?
izquierda.
Левый требует от Варгаса. Понятное дело, что нужно действовать левой рукой. Но Варгас так заряжен на удар, на тяжелый удар, на нокаутирующий удар, что он ничего не видит, кроме как цели перед собой. А цель это сначала отстреливается, вяжет, путает, смещается, а потом начинает выстреливать сама. Зачем Оскару стоять перед противником вот иногда? Мне просто непонятно. Он ведь прекрасно это понимает, лучше нас всех. Да, можно заставить противника мазать, стоя в центре ринга. Но не у канатов же. Смотрите, что делается. Вот так же отдавать раунд, но никак нельзя. Зачем он это делает? Почему пассивничает? Это установка, это задача, это желание заставить противника, как боксеры говорят, вымахаться, устать. И потом уже брать его голыми руками и наказать. Пока не получается. Очень невыразительный раунд со стороны Оскара Де Ла Хойя. Он просто его отдал. А между прочим, кончается 9-й раунд. Остается последние 3. Да, похоже, что так. Концовку раунда Де Ла Хойя вырывает. Я бы не сказал даже, что вырывает. Он просто ее берет. Выигрывает спокойно.
Ya ves cómo le ganaste este round bien. Agua, Fernando, agua. Come poquita agua. Come poquita agua. All right. This 10th round now. How you feel? All right.
See that right hand, everything complete.
He fighting on instinct. He ain't got nothing. Keep doing like you're doing us, okay? And you ain't got to lay up on the ropes and stuff no more. Just whoop his ass from outside, okay?
Тренер требует от Де Ла Хойи не заходить больше к канатам. Не нужно там валять дурака, не нужно рисковать, не нужно подставляться. Держи его на дистанции. Оскар понимает, что сейчас главная задача противника зацепиться за него. Этот прессинг как раз вызван тем, что Варгас понимает, ничего не решено, время уходит. И здесь нужно просто активность, постоянное давление. А преследовать Варгас умеет. Десятый раунд. Оскару нужно выиграть убедительно, хотя бы пару раундов, чтобы быть уверенным в победе. Последние минуты 10-го раунда сейчас пойдет. Де Ла Хойя всегда умел чувствовать время. И время, и выгодный момент. Но зачастую процесс вот этой вот игры на нервы противника его увлекал так, что он, в общем, мог и отдать какие-то эпизоды и даже целые раунды противника. Забыть не могу его проигрыш Тринидаду. Бой он выиграл. Он просто перестал боксировать последние 4 раунда. Тринидад не смог его догнать, но он выглядел активным. Он больше желал выиграть, как многие говорили. Итак, Де Ла Хойя потерпел первое поражение в своей жизни. Да. Интересно, кто будет спорить? Если ничего не случится сейчас, кто будет оспаривать победу Де Ла Хойя? Поплыл. Варгас надо добивать. Вот повезло же, а? Поразительное дело. Фантастика. Чистейший удар. Челюсть слева пропускает Варгас. Да, вот этот момент. Даже сам Оскар растерялся, по-моему. Смотрите, что творится в зале. Публика вскакивает со своих мест. Все ждут драматической развязки. Предпоследний раунд. Оскар не будет рисковать, но немножко обострить бы надо, конечно. Надо бы обострить, конечно, чуть-чуть, как мне кажется. Отдать инициативу Варгасу в предпоследнем раунде. О! Вот это, конечно, интересный поворот событий. «Ты в порядке?» — спрашивает Варгаса Кортес. Будет добивать Делахоя? Да. Нет, выпустил. Ему нужно наверняка. Все. Ну, недаром мы так ждали этой схватки. Недаром. Все ждали либо подтверждение величия золотого мальчика, либо конца его карьеры, который должен был поставить правый кулак страшного нокаутера Фернандо Варгаса. И все-таки блестящая техника, талант, скорость и самообладание. Самое главное — самообладание Оскара де ла Хоя. Вот что решило. Решила все его проблемы и устранила все сомнения. Оскар поистине великий боксер. Никогда у него не было более опасного соперника, чем Варгаса, и никогда ни один из его соперников не желал его стереть с лица земли. Это, конечно, был фантастический по напряжению бой с потрясающей интригой. И завершился он совершенно логично. Никогда еще это самое bad blood, дурная кровь, к добру не приводила. Несмотря на всю свою жестокость и беспощадность, профессиональный бокс все-таки остается спортом. И личная ненависть, злоба, привнесенная на ринг, никого еще не выручала.
Ladies and gentlemen, here at the Mandalay Bay, before we announce the official time, a round of applause for two great champions that came here to face each other tonight, Fernando Vargas and Oscar de la Hoya. The end comes at 48 seconds of round number 11. The winner by
49 секунды 11-го раунда. Оскар де ла Хоя объединяет титулы по двум главным версиям. Оскар де ла Хоя. Великий исполнитель, блестящий боец.
Final CompuBox numbers on a great, great fight. A fight which will be remembered for a long time. Oscar de la Hoya landing 54 more punches, throwing 135 more in a showing that can only be called an act of will. Oscar de la Hoya setting up his victory by dominating the jab category, landing 112 more jabs, throwing nearly 300 more, and landing 40% of them. Vargas had the edge numerically in power punches, but none of Vargas's power punches proved as effective as the series of left hooks that De La Hoya was able to set up for himself in those last couple of rounds. First by landing his right hand over and over, and then by going to the body. And there goes a shaken, beaten, disappointed Fernando Vargas, whose life's dream ended up with Joe Cortez waving in his face and saying, son, you've had enough. And Larry Merchant stands by with a great champion, Oscar De La Hoya.
Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations, Oscar. Did you think it was going to come to a knockout ending, or did it look like it was going to just be in a very intense boxing match as it moved along?
I did feel his conditioning was wearing down a bit, and I know my conditioning is great. I felt really good, but I should have moved my head a little more, caught more jabs. He was wide open for the jab, but it's a learning process.
Well, you've learned pretty well over the years, and you're never quite satisfied, even with, how does this rank among your greatest victories?
It's got to rank up there. I mean, Fernando Vargas is no pushover. He's a strong puncher, but I knew I was faster. I knew I had more speed, so I can utilize my quickness and eventually catch him in the later rounds.
He got you on the ropes several times. Was that distracting to you? Did you believe that he was too strong for you in there? Did you have to make adjustments?
At first, I thought he was too strong for me, but when I was rolling and he was missing, I knew he was going to get tired in the later rounds. That's what it does. Remember the fight I told you, no sweat bread against Mayweather? He got him tired. He was like that, getting him tired, and then later rounds, knocked him out.
When did you see him getting tired?
I believe like in the 7th, even the 6th, 7th round, somewhere around there. I felt he was wearing down.
What did the blood mean to you, to see him bloody like that? What is that message that sends to a fighter?
I'm sorry to say, but I know it sounds brutal, but when I see blood, I want more. That's just the way it is.
How satisfying is this, simply on a personal level, after being taunted and goaded for so many years by him?
Oh, it feels great because all the talk he was saying, I just got fed up with it. I wasn't going to fight him, but he got under my skin. So I told everybody inside the ring, my fists are going to do the talking.
What keeps Oscar De La Hoya going? You've got all the money in the world. You're married to a lovely woman. You've had so much success. Why do you keep doing this?
Well, in boxing, Larry, first of all, it's my whole team. Mayweather, Little Joe, my brother, Bob Arum, especially my wife. My wife motivated me. Although she was there with me for about a month and a half up in camp, the team, sometimes feel, well, we don't want women there, this and that. But my wife is different. She pushes me. Every time I leave that room to go train, she tells me, you better train hard or don't come back. All right, I'll train hard.
All right, let's take a look at the 11th round, and you decide, you tell us what was going on.
Left hook right here. I was just waiting for his jab. He was starting to throw a solid jab, but I knew that if I feinted him and I threw the left hook. We were always working on that. And if I had a chance to throw the right hand, I would throw it. I was working on the body, just trying to stop him here, basically.
This looks like the end of the Cortez fight.
Well, as you can see, I'm keeping my composure now. I'm not throwing wild punches. I'm keeping my composure and kind of seeing what I have opened. And I can pick my shots and really connect right there.
Did he say anything to you during the fight?
No, he just left. I thought he was going to shake my hand or something, but he just left. It's okay, no problem.
Do you feel sort of like you beat up a kid? Because the first time you laid eyes on him, he was a kid.
Well, you know what? I never disrespect any fighter, because any fighter who steps inside this ring, I respect a lot, because it's a tough sport. But he talked a lot of stuff about me, and I didn't like that. So I had to show him a lesson.
How long do you want to keep going on?
Until I know I can secure my legacy in boxing. That's fighting Shane Mosley. That's fighting Trinidad if he comes back. If he comes back. If he doesn't, I respect that. But fighting the best. You have to fight the best to be the best. And with Mayweather in my corner and on my team, man, I'm going straight to the top.
You told me yesterday that you thought perhaps that Trinidad's retirement was a negotiating ploy to get a better deal in a rematch. Is that what you believe?
Well, who knows? Who knows? Because a fighter wants to be with his family. A fighter, after accomplishing so much in the ring the way Trinidad did, he wants to be with his family and take some time off. Maybe when he rests enough, he'll decide to come back. Who knows? But like I said before, if he retires, I respect it.
So you're looking forward to fighting Shane Mosley and trying to avenge that defeat sometimes early next year?
Well, I have to. I have to. In order to become a great champion, I have to beat the guys who beat me. And Shane Mosley is a great fighter. Even though he lost twice already to Vernon, he's still a great fighter. He still has a talent. But I'm looking to fight the best. Even Winky Wright is saying, well, I don't want to fight him, this and that. Hey, if it presents itself, because you know I've never ducked nobody. If he presents himself, then hey, why not fight him?
What farewell message would you send to Fernando Vargas?
I'm not a lightweight. I'm not a 130-pound puncher anymore. I have a punch, and a lot of people are surprised when they come in the ring with me. They don't think I'm fast enough. They don't think I'm strong enough. Maybe they think I'm still that little puppy I told you about 8 years ago, Larry. But I can pack a punch, that's for sure, and people have to respect that, hopefully.
They will.
One more thing. Independencia Mexicana, viva todos los mexicanos, por esta victoria es para ustedes. East LA, a toda mi gente, mi familia, Mili, te amo. ¡Mua! Un besote.
Thank you very much.
Big Bear.
And now back to Jim.
In Espanol, for a reason. Now, we told you that it was a relatively inexperienced judging panel for a fight of such magnitude, and on one of the three scorecards, perhaps that shows up. Let's show you how the judges had the fight scored at the moment of the technical knockout in the 11th round. Relatively inexperienced and unexposed Paul Smith and 70-year-old Doug Tucker, both with De La Hoya ahead 96-94. Patricia Jarman Manning had Vargas leading in the fight, 97-94. So a majority draw, or with a knockdown, maybe even a victory, was still within reach of Vargas as they entered that 11th round. But De La Hoya left no doubt, as you suggested in the middle stages of the fight, George, that he might be able to do if he committed to that. Hey, the Cuarte comeback victory was a great victory. Even his performance against Mosley in a loss was a great performance. But I think this was the greatest performance of
No
Oscar's
doubt about
career.
it. Experience paid off in the end. He's been in with Pernell Whitaker. De La Hoya's got a loads of experience. And in the last couple of rounds, that's what pulled him through. Vargas had a lot of heart, but you can need heart and experience to get in those latter rounds with good punches like De La Hoya. I was so surprised that De La Hoya even had the courage to continue after the bloody middle rounds.
And the performance suggests that Oscar hasn't lost anything, may in fact be an improved fighter, and would have good chances against Shane Mosley and Felix Trinidad should he be able to secure those fights.
In my mind, he's the best fighter in the division right now. I don't think that he has to look out for anybody. If you're going to get in there with Oscar, you better bring your bag with you, because he's bringing a lot of stuff with him. The guy is the best in the division. I don't like saying it, but he boxed. He proved that he could box and punch. That's all you need in that
And surely
division.
you appreciate, incidentally, George, when you see a victory like this, you have to appreciate and honor what De La Hoya has meant to the public following and the dramatic impact of the sport through all of his career.
Yeah, he's been a beautiful smile. He's a crossover into anything you wanted commercially, and he's an asset to his family. He's pulling for his team. He's everything I'd want my boy to be.
All right.
My boys to be.
We're hopeful that Larry Merchant will be able to get a word with Fernando Vargas. He has gone to Vargas's dressing room right now to see if we can hear from Fernando before we leave you tonight. But right now, in the wake of this tremendous fight, great victory by De La Hoya, let's go back upstairs to our host, Bob Costas.
Jim, thanks very much. For the benefit of those in the audience, myself included, who are not bilingual, apparently what De La Hoya said when he began to speak in Spanish, our people downstairs tell us that he said he dedicates this victory to the Mexican people and to his wife. We know that his wife was in his corner to begin with. Some portion of the Mexican-American community was not. The victory itself is one thing, but the manner in which this victory was achieved must win him respect from even his greatest detractors.
He's got to have respect, in addition to fighting all of the top fighters of his era. It was a great victory. He ended it with after he saw that he had established control and had Fernando set up, rather than just throw a flurry of punches, he took his time and set him up and knocked him out with a left hook, basically reminiscent of the left hook that Sugar Ray Robinson knocked out Gene Foreman with. He got most of his punching power from his toes on that punch. That was a very smart thing to do. A great victory.
We have just been told that Fernando Vargas is headed for the hospital. We have no further report. It could be just for observation, as is often the case in situations like this. But obviously then we will not have a post-fight interview with Fernando Vargas. And it was notable, and in fact De La Hoya noted it himself, that Vargas maintained whatever animosity that is, and this must be especially galling for him,
Still
considering the
bad blood.
level of hatred that he must feel toward De La Hoya for whatever reasons. He did not go over, even in a perfunctory fashion, didn't go over in so much as tap him on the shoulder or nod at him and acknowledge that he had been defeated.
I was surprised at that. Usually there's a lot of animosity in a lot of fighters prior to the fight, but usually, especially when you have a real brutal fight like this where both guys was hurting each other, you develop respect along the way. But in this case, your blood still exists.
Pretty clearly, even had he lost tonight, Oscar De La Hoya had built up Hall of Fame credentials. But as he has said all along, he is fighting now for his place in history. In your view, what does this victory do for that spot in history, pending whatever may follow against Mosley or whomever else?
It's definitely got to give him a good spot in history. In addition, it was the first really, I would say, good fight that he's fought in a long time, from the Shane Mosley fights all the way back, and even the fight with Trinidad. This was a very impressive fight that he fought. Of course, the fight he fought had some credentials. And I think from a boxing viewpoint, it was an impressive fight for all of us.
As Jim Lampley and his colleagues noted early on, it was very clear. We knew that Vargas was stronger than De La Hoya. He was much stronger in the early rounds, and yet De La Hoya found a way to build up points through superior boxing skills. It did not appear that he had any kind of one-punch knockout power at 154, but cumulatively he got it done.
Also, I think what I saw in Vargas, I think the extra weight that he picked up was good, but I think he gave up something. He seemed to have been so muscle-bound that he was tight. And usually guys like that who develop muscles from lifting weight, they get tight in the later rounds. Their punches, their push, and he was really vulnerable to be knocked out much earlier than that. He was very, very much open inside when he was started getting close. And his output of punches went down tremendously. I think a lot of it has to do with that extra weightlifting that he picked up.
You've been around this game for a long, long time. Where does this fight rank in terms of excitement and the quality of the fight?
It would have to rank one of the good fights up, and not a great fight.
Not great.
Not great, but it would be one of the good fights because it was a give and take. It was certain rounds would be Vargas, the next round would be, for Oscar, and that's what makes a good fight when you have the ebb and flow. It was never a one-way fight.
So from an expert's point of view, you rate it as very good, but not great. From an excitement and entertainment point of view, this was one that seemed to live up to the hype. The people got what they paid for tonight.
Well, you had two big fights, as we said earlier. You had Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson was promoted as being a big fight, but it didn't turn out to be a competitive fight. But this one was a good competitive fight.
Emmanuel, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Hall of Fame manager and trainer Emmanuel Stewart, Fran Charles, George Foreman, Larry Merchant, and of course Jim Lampley, who called the fight. Our thanks to all of them. De La Hoya versus Vargas has been brought to you by Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino, elegance and entertainment.